Alright, Wrestle Dynasty from New Japan Pro Wrestling. Before I get started, I'm going to make this very clear. This is not going to be long, and I'll only talk about maybe 3 or 4 matches out of the 10 that was done in the kickoff show, which were 2, and the 8 matches that were on the main card. This was a long show, but the thing that you need to understand, because I do not watch New Japan Pro Wrestling or New Japan Pro Strong, even though I recognize many of the people here, there's no context behind it. Understand, you say, well, what do you mean no context? Because it's pro wrestling. Don't you love pro wrestling? Of course I do. But this is more than just watching people go on the mat and wrestle. This is about the stories behind these damn matches. And the majority of them, I don't have the context of. Yes, many of these were part of a tournament, like the Lucha Gauntlet match. But not knowing what's going on with many of these wrestlers, if there's any stories behind them, if there's any feuds behind them, yeah, briefly they do talk about them with the commentary team, which I didn't really like the commentary team very much. I didn't. The English commentary team felt a little dry for me personally. It wasn't because one of them has a European accent. No. It's just that they didn't feel like they gelled very well with me. Now, other people heard them for a long time. They're fine with them. But because it's the first time I've heard them, I can't get into it because they just feel like they're off for me personally. So I want to make this clear. I'm not saying the show was bad. I'm not. Generally, all the matches were fine. All the wrestling was fine. It's mostly European, some American, and a good amount of Lucha Libre. Nothing wrong with that. But I'm going to tell you, because I am not reviewing New Japan Pro Wrestling or Strong on a daily basis, or CMML for that matter. The context behind it, the majority of the matches, which were fine, were blank to me. I'm not like Alex, I'm not like JD. If they watch them, or Solomon's for that matter, or Grimm, or the Sleg Daddy, if you heard already, Sleg Daddy is nearing the end of doing any more wrestling reviews. He said possibly at the end of this year, he's done doing pro wrestling, maybe. If Jeff Jarrett becomes a champion in AEW, I think he's not going to leave because he's not going to stand for it. But he's going to be done. But if he did watch Japanese wrestling or anyone else, I'm just not a wrestling fan from New Japan or CMML. I just don't watch it. So the context of any feuds, any storylines, any character development is just not there for me. So I'm only going to talk about 3 or 4 matches, and that's it. The first match I am going to talk about is for the International, what was it? The International Women's Cup. Now, there was somebody, I believe I've seen her before, named is Momo. I do recognize her, but I don't remember when was the last time I saw her. Then we had someone I've never seen from CMML. Some woman, I don't know who she is. Then we have Willow, as well as Athena, who I'm angry about. I'm saying it right now. The performance of Athena during the match with Willow and Momo, the other last woman who's supposedly from El Paso, I just don't recognize her. I've probably never seen her before, which she didn't do a bad job. But from those 3, the best one out of there was Athena. And she's still basically stuck in the same situation for the last 700 days, being the ROH Women's Champion, when she could have been doing this on the main roster, working either Collision or could have been working Dynamite. Hell, I'm saying this right now. You needed someone to lead Collision, someone who could be on the show constantly and could become a decent champion for them. For some people to have more than just a little bit of interest, you could have gave it to Athena. At this point, you didn't want to do with Eddie Kingston, Tony Khan. You didn't want to do with Samoa Joe, Tony Khan. If you care about women's wrestling, give it to Athena, because they did something like that with Jade Cargill. I'm just saying, this was the best women's match I've seen in a while. And I'm going to tell you, Athena made it the best out of it. Now, I'm not taking anything from Willow, Momo, or that other woman, but you could see Athena looked the best. That one move that she doesn't do often, that forward flipping clothesline into the corner, she rarely does it. But in this situation, because of her height and the amount of torque she does, is so strong, it looked like it took off Willow. I believe it was either Willow or Momo. I can't remember which one. She could have took that girl's head off. One of them. In the end, it was Momo taking a bat that looks like she carried with her down to the ring with her manager. I don't recognize the manager. And whacked her in the face with it. Or in the neck, right around here. She took her out. Done. I felt that was a decently good ending to it. It was a little sifting. You don't normally see women do that. Using a solid object like a bat. It looked like a bat. So, for me personally, I don't know what the character is of Momo. I do not. It's just how the structure of the match was. And the two people I recognize with Momo, I believe I've seen at least 1 or 2 times before, made the match memorable for me. So, I will say I like that. Now, let's make this very clear. I know you're going to say, what about the Lucha Gauntlet match? There were people in there you recognize. Yes. But really, what did it mean? What was the guy's name? Despero? I believe that's his name. El Despero. I believe. I'm probably pronouncing his name bad. Like I say, I do bad. I don't pronounce names very well. Unless I see them constantly and get used to them, then I can figure out how to be able to pronounce the name correctly. But we had so many people here. And the kicker here is that I got no context behind what's going on here. I mean, the gauntlet match, fine. But everyone going after the current, New Japan Pro Wrestling Junior Heavyweight Champion just felt empty to me. Because I've not seen the New Japan Pro Wrestling Junior Heavyweight Champion before. And from what I understand, from when it came to, what was the other match show? I forgot the other show. I forgot the name of the other show. The one before. Sorry. Now I remember. It was Wrestle Kingdom 19. I'm sorry. Like I said, I don't watch New Japan much. And I forgot which show it was. Pretty much, it was Wrestle Kingdom. So, basically, whatever happened there, I think he won that title there. So, I don't have the context. But if he did win it, good for him. But then, it's like, it feels empty. There you go. The match that I felt was done and structured okay, but really didn't help anything, was the match between Shibata and Takahashi. They went to the limit, and there was no winner. They just kept chopping the fuck out of each other. They had a long match, but nearing the end of it, all they did was chop each other, and it went to a draw. Now, understand the context behind this one, because I do understand it. Takahashi is currently the president of New Japan Pro Wrestling, but he's still an active wrestler at this moment. And pretty much Shibata is still an active wrestler on AEW's own show of Dynamite generally, and they also do Collision. But here's the thing. You didn't want to hurt Shibata. But the thing is, Shibata really isn't in a prominent storyline right now. And it wouldn't have hurt him to lose to Takahashi. But then Takahashi, who, and I'm saying it clearly because it was already spoken about by many people, he is literally done with wrestling. But he's not stopping. At least not yet. He cannot wrestle anymore. Due to the fact of how bad his knees and maybe his hips are, he can barely walk, guys. You may love Takahashi, but as someone who watched wrestlers for many years, who have reached where they could do almost any move till the end of their career when literally they battered their body so badly, they can barely walk to the damn ring. He's reached that point. He's reached the point where literally he can't even walk correctly anymore. Yeah, he still looks great for his age. He's still in great... He's still pretty dieseled. He's still got good muscle tone. He's still strong. But his legs and hips are done. And he should stop and just be the president. He can do commentary. He can come out and talk. But as an active wrestler, he should be done. Because when we're talking about drawing to a time limit, and the only thing he's left able to do is to chop his opponent. And that's it. No more than that. Now, in Japanese pro wrestling, that's not a bad way to end it, which is good in this situation. But it is obvious he should not continue doing it. He should have lost to Shibata. But they don't want to lose faith for either Shibata or Takahashi. So, there you go. You see, I'm botching it because I feel sorry for Shibata, who should be more prominent and should have more of a role on AEW TV. Yes, he doesn't speak English very well, or at all. But they can do something with him. They can put him in a story that could work. But they won't do it because they never booked Japanese wrestlers correctly. Yes, Kateska has been booked all right because of Don Collins, and that's the reason why he succeeded. But Shibata, no. Takahashi, he's currently a president of the damn company that's throwing the entire show. He didn't need this. He didn't. Now, I'm not saying he's not still popular in Japanese wrestling and in Japan. He probably is still massively possible and probable to still be very relevant. But I'm hoping that when he does these matches, they're rare. Now, I don't know if they are. If this is rare, it's fine. It won't hurt Shibata. It won't hurt him. But if he's still actively wrestling every couple of weeks, no. If I was watching New Japan and he was still coming on TV every week or every other week, I would say, I don't want to watch him. He's not in condition anymore to go in the ring. And I'm hoping one day he will limit himself to maybe once every month to once every 6 months in wrestling, if he hasn't already done it. Moving on. What did I think? I haven't seen Dave Finlay I haven't seen since the time he was on Impact. And I know Brody King very well. Current Bullet Club leader, I didn't know it was Dave. So I knew that. But what was the context behind the match? Was there actually story or not? I don't know. I didn't keep track. And I'm not supposed to keep track because I'm not a fan of New Japan. Not because I hate it, because I don't watch it. So they had a great match. But in the end, I didn't really care. I didn't. So Dave winning or Brody winning, it wouldn't have mattered to me. The match was fine, but I didn't care. How many is that? That's 1, 2. 3, 4. I think I will go beyond 3 or 4. I think I'm going to do at least 6. Let's get to the Rev Women's Championship. Mercedes Moné versus Mia Shirakawa. Now, I know Mia very well. She's that. And I know Mercedes very well. But here's the problem. The build-up in this story has been lackluster. They just threw this thing together so quickly. Or due to the fact they didn't spotlight it on AEW TV. Or better yet, since I don't watch New Japan. And even if they had to schedule months in advance, I didn't know about it. So it was so brief for me. It doesn't really have any story behind it. Now, mind you, I'm not against either one of these women because they did a good match. It wasn't a great match, but it was a good one. I did enjoy it. And now, Moné is the Rev Women's Championship. Let me give it to you like that. She is the TBS champion, the New Japan Pro Strong champion, and the Rev Women's champion. She now has 3 belts. 3. Mia Shirakawa had 2 belts of her own. And because she's also I believe she's the IWGP Women's Champion, which is cool. The problem here is, since I don't watch it often, and I don't watch Rev Wrestling, the context feels empty. And worse yet, let's make it clear. Mercedes, booked on Dynamite, has been very lackluster. She has. Going up against who? Really? Chris Statlander. Nothing really strong there. The only match and the only story I want is Mercedes Moné versus Saraya. That's the one I want. Saraya and Mercedes. That is the only story I would be completely invested in because, as I've said for years, well, for more than a little while, since Mercedes came and since Saraya has now been wrestling, if those two met, that would be an automatic storyline because Mercedes was the last person to wrestle her and was the one who put her out. Not intentionally, But Saraya couldn't wrestle anymore because of her neck. She was done, and that was the match. And part of that match where she gets kicked between the shoulder blades that ended it. There is your story. And they won't go there. Moving on. Claudio versus Shito Yurio. I'm only mentioning this briefly because Yurio is interested in coming after Moxley. Now, because there's almost no build, maybe they'll start Dynamite this Wednesday with him there, but there's no build. Nothing for me personally because I haven't seen any type of animosity between them, and then they're going to have to build it to make it interesting for me personally. He's going to have to come on Dynamite. So that's the only mention I'm making. The last match I'm going to talk about will be Kenny Omega versus a Gabe Kidd. That's the last match I'm going to talk about. I know I can talk about Zack Sabre Jr. and Ricochet. No. That was just a straight up match. The match before that, Ima Ishii versus Kateska. There's no story there too. No, mind you, it is for the International Championship, but since they both show up on AEW many times, but there's no build up for it, I'm leaving both those matches alone. There's no point in it. Because I know them, but there's no story that has been built before this match. But here, there is a story when it comes to, well, Gabe Kidd and, look, did I rather see Kenny start wrestling on Dynamite before coming to Wrestle Dynasty? Yes. But they are doing it. And I got the chance to see him wrestle. Did I hate it? No. Was it a good match? Yes. Yes. And I would say this. If Kenny can wrestle continually after this, like Brock Lesnar did, having reticulitis, I think gastroenteritis, I can't remember the full name of it. If he's able to wrestle just like Brock was, able to survive the sickness, and able to come back and start wrestling again, great. Because that wasn't a bad match. It did seem Kenny got tanked a bit faster than he normally would. Sorry. He did get tanked a bit faster than he normally would, but that's kind of understandable. He's barely managed to wrestle for over a year. Guys, if you think he didn't do a very good job, I can understand it. But let's make it clear. He still looks in great shape. He did get tanked much faster than normal. It's obvious. He needs time to get back into wrestling again so he can get the stamina that he would normally have, or at least near it. So I will say, with Kidd and him, it was a good match. It took a they played up him not being able to do when I don't know why this bothers me about the one-winged angel. I don't know why. Maybe it's because they kept bringing it up so much. It makes me botch because it was getting on my nerves. Or was due to the fact that he looked like he'd do it, and he played too much with it. And that's just me. That's just how I feel about it when it came to the one-winged angel. But it was still a good match. And like I said, the majority of this show had good matches on it. Some of them above average, some of them actually very good. But the point here I want to make very clear. This is just my thoughts on the show. I'm not a New Japan Pro Wrestling watcher. I'm not a CMML watcher. I'm just not. So the context and the storytelling and the characters are not there for me. Yes, many of the people are from New Japan that are shown here are from AEW. I know that. So I know many of the stories with them and their characters already. But if I don't know what builds into the match, if it's not just a thrown together match like many times are, it pisses me off because what are we getting in AEW right now? Thrown together matches that had no time to build with no reasoning. And I know like a few of you guys, you watched, you said it was great. I'm not taking that from you. You loved it, fine. But this is the guy who's on the other side of this camera who's giving a fair, honest review of something he doesn't normally watch. And he does know many of the people there, but how the story went to make the match, I didn't see it. If it was done in New Japan, I didn't see the build up to go into the match. It was a thrown together match. It was a fine, okay match. But it wasn't great. It wasn't. Almost 5.5 hours of action with no context to a guy who wants to make sure he has great action, but storytelling, who has some good idea of all the characters there. We got a whole bunch of Lucha Libre. I didn't know most of them. I've only seen maybe one or two of them only a couple of times. And due to the fact that I don't know who they do, what they do, who they're going up against, if this is the first time match or not, or first time they've ever been in the same ring together, it felt blank. I'm glad you loved it. I'm glad it was great to you. To me, the show was fine, average. And that's not knocking it. This is from somebody, and I say it again, so you get the context, because many people, they'll just comment without even thinking. I'm someone who doesn't watch I'm getting upset because I wish I could make it understandable, but I can't. I don't watch both shows. I don't watch CMML. I don't watch New Japan Pro Wrestling. I don't watch New Japan Pro Strong for that matter. I'm sorry, don't. So it was an average show that had some good people on it that I did recognize, and a return of somebody who's been gone because of a severe disease that could have took his life. But that's just me. Peace.